from all, to all, with all, for all, through all. We thank the gods of creation. We thank the ancestors. We thank the forces of nature. And we thank the earth. We thank them for their direction, their protection, their guidance, for keeping us, showing us, allowing us to know and enjoy life to its fullest, now and later.
Black people who once loved with the slow march of time. Time was ours to hold in the soft, low-born chambers of our hearts. And once we, the Afro mommies and daddies of a sun world, would turn our strands of hair into antennas to tune in the juju madness and syncopated love rhythms of Africa. And we loved with time, and we took the time to love, and with the right time we loved, and we loved time after time. Will we ever love again? Will we ever love again? Will we really ever love again? Or will we just sit and rot away with the brighter tomorrows in the skag field, rat-cluttered halls of our minds?
Black people, what y'all gonna do? Black people, what y'all gonna do?
Will the real black people please stand up?
Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us, facing the rising sun of our new day.
Jumbo Habari, and welcome once again to Our Story, the program that makes being black positive, relevant, desirable, and true to a lost nation in America. A program that speaks to the historic significance of the original people of the earth. Our Story Network takes pride in setting itself away from other program that centers you on entertainment or other rhetorical mumbo-jumbo that misdirects your attention onto other things that causes you to exhaust your resources and renders you brain dead. It is Our Story who talks about commitment to you and your people. It is Our Story that champions the reestablishment of the black genius that once ruled the world. It is Our Story that focuses you in on the rewards of black advocacy, black activism, black involvement, and black power. It is Our Story that encourages survival of the black race and solicits your involvement to that end. Remember, race first is the call of the day, and we as a people must, I say must, take the pledge if we the people of the original race expect to survive. As I take the many lessons I have received over the years and reflect upon them by sharing these lessons with my brothers and sisters, I realize the power that we as a people possess, for the most part, has gone unnoticed. The masses of black folks who have been rendered lost and disenfranchised from the meaning and mission our Creators intended for us to embrace is all but depleted. It is because of the mission and meaning of the life of our ancestors that I realized how blessed black people really are. What fascinates me are the many gifts I have been granted, which allows me to distribute the information onward to you. And as always, that message begins and ends with the importance of blackness. Say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud. Greetings, friends, comrades, family, the inquisitive onlookers, and our beloved viewers. Welcome, welcome, and welcome to our Story Network. Before we get into tonight's conversation, I want to remind you the topic we are discussing tonight can be found in my new book entitled Our Story, The Original Holocaust, now available at the Community Book Center, 2523 Bayou Road, Wayne's World and Sons, 2255 St. Claude Avenue, and Educator's Delight, 3501 Holiday Drive, Suite 405. You can also order online by sending an email to wcjohnson76@yahoo.com and state you are interested in the book. You will receive an email invoice from PayPal, make your payment, and the book will promptly be sent off to you. Remember, that's Our Story, The Original Holocaust, which will fill in all the gaps that have been taught to us as being truth and realism over the years. Now to tonight's program. We have an interesting discussion about one's ability to buy and use weapons of mass destruction. Weapons of mass destruction is defined as a weapon of mass destruction being a nuclear, radiological, chemical, biological, or other weapons that can kill and bring significant harm to a large number of humans or cause great damage to human-made structures. It is a belief of many that the mass destruction was made and created and made possible by the theories and philosophies that we found out of Greek history, Greek and Roman history, and what in the world they brought about as a biosphere, which comes from the Greek, which is biok or bios, meaning life, also known as the ecosphere, meaning environment, is the worldwide sum of all ecosystems. Eco meaning something that is environmentally friendly or sustainable. So this means we are talking about the destruction of something environmentally sustainable. In this case, human life. Unlike President George Bush's pronouncement that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction in his description of the Iraqi war, a protracted armed conflict that began in 2003 with the invasion of Iraq by the U.S.-led coalition that overthrew the government of Saddam Hussein. We are talking about the so-called war on the Second Amendment today. That is a war that the National Rifle Association members would like you to believe is a real war to enhance the ability of keeping guns in the hands of people who have no mental ability about what to do with these guns, which brings us to tonight's topic. I read an article in Think 504, a blog news organization by Jeff Thomas. The article was by Kenneth Cooper entitled, "Should We Ban Assault Rifles?" What caught my eye was the tone of the article, somewhat a tongue-in-cheek delivery that posed some unique questions. In Kenneth's article, Kenneth questioned why Congress is paralyzed about the gun question. But in Kenneth's question, the light comes on and a new set of questions becomes evident. Like where he talks about a minority of people misusing guns that have produced concerns among minorities of people in America feeling safe. It seems as if Congress refuses to act because of the minority hold on the, quote, insane minority that uses guns to kill the majority, that is, the people living in America. My question becomes, when, with all of the insane acts of a few on the planet Earth, a group we call minorities, how do we not question the control of these few we call minorities on the majority of people living on the planet Earth? If we look around, the minority over the course of recent history have caused the majority of people living on the planet to conform to the minority position in all things. So isn't it the norm as opposed to the exception that the minority rules the world? The next question is the second to the last paragraph. Kenneth states, "Now, of course, if you're considering killing a bunch of people, you're crazy. And you shouldn't be anywhere near a gun." End of quote. I assume Kenneth's quote does not apply to war plans to kill masses of people. But here again, we are back to minorities versus majorities. And again, we are talking about the minority controlling the majority. Case in point, the guns carried by teachers in school setting. The majority are against this, but the minority seems to be for this, and it seems as if we are getting armed teachers in the classroom. To the last point, Kenneth talks about mental histories being turned over to the National Instant Criminal Background Check System, or the NICS. What about the privacy of the medical records and the rights to privacy for individuals? Kenneth ends his article talking about the possible gunman waiting to kill again, causing all of us fear and uncertainty. Is this the day when I will come into contact with the next shooter? This caused me to wonder how most black people feel when the uncertainty of the next black person was due to get hung, or when the next white boy wanted entertainment and would grab a black person to fulfill their desires for entertainment. With these questions, I wonder why the shooters are mostly white and not black. After all, of the horrendous treatment whites have shown blacks, why haven't blacks gone on a massive killing spree against whites? Who knows better than the massive killers and their victims, that being the black race? And what is funny about the question, whites ask this question every day of their lives. They know, and being white, know that they are giving blacks every reason to become the killers of whites. The new question is, why are whites killing their own? And with that, I want to introduce you to Kenneth Cooper, the author of the article, and several articles we're going to probably be talking about tonight. Welcome, Kenneth, to our story, and thank you for taking the time to be with us this evening.
Thank you for having me.
And I would like to ask you about, first of all, why do you think all of a sudden it seems like it's all of a sudden whites are killing their own?
Why all of a sudden it seems so prevalent?
Yeah.
Just the way the media reports it, you know. We have 24-hour news cycle, so, and that's a hot topic that people tune into, so they just talk about it endlessly and endlessly to where, you know, it seems more than, you know, it's pretty much rare events, but, you know, it's reported as if it's almost, you know, something, a normal part of your life when it's not, when it's really not.
You know,
at least on that scale, as far as, you know, mass shootings.
Yeah. You know, the NRA and their lobbyists are claiming that all of this fuss is about protecting the Second Amendment. From where I sit, all of this fuss is about protecting the profits that gun manufacturers are able to enjoy with such a free society that can go out and buy weapons of mass destruction to go hunting or to do target practice, which to me makes no sense.
Yeah, because like I said in the article, the AR-15 is what? The #1 selling gun in the country. So of course, you know, they're not going to be about a ban on their #1 product.
Yeah.
So that's probably what the motivation is. But, you know, if you also sell it as a attack on your right to own the gun, you're going to make more people paranoid and want them to go, have them feeling like they need to go out and get a gun before, you know, guns are banned. So, yeah, they're protecting their profits more than anything else, I would say.
Now, these protectors of the Second Amendment claim that they want to use the AR-15 for hunting. I don't know how much research you've done about an AR-15, but I don't hear a lot of talk about what damage that bullet does when it enters the body. Because it's not like a normal round that is fired that'll go in, and unless it hits something like a bone, it'll ricochet. But if it doesn't, it'll come right through. Whereas an AR-15 ammunition is built, when it penetrates, it begins to tumble. And when it's tumbling, it's tearing up the insides. That's why there's so much, it causes so much damage to humans, because it is literally just ripping your insides out. So why do you think we don't hear much about the damage and how it does and why it does it?
I don't know why we don't hear much about it, but yeah, you're right. It was made to kill people in war, so it's made to inflict the maximum amount of damage. But now you have people today saying, okay, that's what they made it for, but I'm using it for hunting and target practice and whatnot. So that's where you get the whole, well, most of the people who own them are using them for, you know, recreational use as opposed to actually killing people. So you may have an instance where a gun was made to do one thing, but people, general population is using it for something else. But after the mass shooting, that is a good question, like why they never actually talk about the wounds that the thing created. Because from what I've read, like you say, it tumbles, so a normal shot you may have like a little small bullet hole, but once it hits your body, it's like the size of a Coke can going through you.
Now, let me go back just to get some understanding. Reason and rationale is, when you wrote this article, what was it you specifically had in mind?
It was just me working through the questions that I wrote. That's why, you know, I didn't say anything definitive like, hey, we should ban this, or hey, these medical records should be turned over, because, you know, I don't know the wide range implications of all that. Like, say if they ban the AR-15, who's to say people just won't, you know, potential mass shooters just won't use Glocks? Or if you turn over medical records, I think as you mentioned, how does that play into your privacy issues?
Right. Now, I don't want people to get the impression that you just talk about the gun ban, because you've written an awful lot of articles one of the articles that you authored was about Louisiana being last. You want to expound upon that?
Oh, well, I'm sure anybody who's ever paid attention to anything written about our state know that comparatively we just terrible. We've been last the last couple of years, and before that we've been next to last. Mississippi has kind of edged past us, but to say we such a, well, I guess, I don't know, I guess it's kind of hard because Louisiana, you know, outside of New Orleans is, what else is there? As far as, you know, having an economy, you know, I think New Orleans is the only city with like a real major metropolitan CBD. And for such a big state, I mean.
Now let's go into the writing, because I know writing has always intrigued me. And I know a lot of people who are interested in writing but don't find the time. What was it that just pushed you to that point where you had to do this?
I do an awful lot of reading. So when I read, I always have a pen and I'm writing in the books, you know, taking notes. So it started with me just wanting to put all those thoughts together. And then, you know, I just say, hey, I just want to start publishing stuff. But so I started off, you know, writing short stories and whatnot, but there's no instant gratification with that. So I was like, hey, I could write political articles, and found a website at first that would, you know, instantly publish it. So I was like, wow, that's nice. Then I got in touch with Jeff. We went to talking, and next thing you know, I was writing for Jeff. I've been writing for Jeff for maybe like 4 or 5 years. And then, you know, he gives me a lot of leeway. I'm sure if you've read the articles, some of them are like really playful because I like to have fun when I write, but I like to make a point, not just, you know, crack jokes. But mainly I write just to have fun and get my opinion out.
Do you have any other outlets where you publish?
No.
Okay. So you've been doing this for a while and you find enjoyment in it. The key that you said, though, was that you read a lot.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And after you read so much, then you have this desire that you want to make your opinion known about the information that you have read.
I just incorporate it into an opinion about something else.
Right. So what kind of motivation or information can you give to those out there that have not passed that stage of I wanna? What would you say to them?
To somebody who
wants to write but hasn't gotten to the point where they're writing.
Just sit down and do it. I mean, other than that, there's nothing, you know, no magic advice. You just got to actually sit down there and dedicate yourself to writing something. It's also best if you know other people who write, because that way you'll have somebody to instantly, you know, react to what you're writing instead of just you in the bubble along with your computer. Because, you know, after you sit in the computer for a couple of hours and you didn't put out a couple of pages, the last thing you want to do is just put it away and have no type of feedback on it. I know I did, and I just, that's why I never got into fiction. It's like, okay, well, I'm going to spend 3 hours writing out a page and then nobody gets to see it. Yeah.
So you say you didn't like fiction for that reason. Is that the only reason why you don't care for fiction?
I didn't say I don't care for it. I'm just not motivated to write it because I can't get it out instantly. But I also find that now that I'm writing for Jeff, you know, now I'll, you know, play around on the side because, you know, I can write for Jeff and I say, okay, I got that urge, can't even think of the word, that itch fulfilled. I got this piece out. It'll be published Monday. Now I can just play around and write something else. So it always helps, you know, if you already have an outlet, it'll allow you to experiment and be more productive with other type of writing.
What do you find being the process that you determine what topics you're going to tackle?
It's always random. Like Jeff will say, hey, well, Sunday will be the deadline, and it may be not until Friday where I decide, say, hey, let's pick this topic, and it won't be till I actually sit down and start writing till I decide how I'm actually write it. Because if you read, I never write like just a straight journalism piece. It's always something, I guess, what you could say, kind of a little throw it off or have some kind of angle to it, because that's just my personality, not something I consciously try to do. But I always have to sit down and say, okay, how I'm gonna enjoy this? What's gonna make me actually sit here for 3 hours and write this piece out? And whatever mode that is, whatever type of writing that is, then I'll, that's what'll happen. Like, go ahead.
So you're talking about personalizing your writing.
Yeah, it has to be personal for me. I just can't write I just don't enjoy that. Like, just a straight journalism piece where, these are the facts.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be motivated to write that at all.
Yeah. Well, I'm telling you, what people react to is when you put your personality into it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we can get facts from anywhere.
Yeah.
But when you have an opportunity to express your opinion about what you have, I don't know. I don't think as black people we have been allowed to enjoy creative writing. We haven't been allowed to be opinionated.
We also haven't been allowed to just express ourselves in the way we would want. Because, if you go to any college and you go to write say you go to write a short story, your narrator has to talk white. Mm-hmm. If you have a black narrator, you'll be like, oh, well, this is setting your piece in a specific area. Like, well, no, that's just a black narrator. Why does the narrator have to be white? Mm-hmm. And you have to, that's one thing you're already handicapped right there. You got to voice your opinion in somebody else's tone or their grammar.
Yeah,
pretty much.
And that goes back to us not being allowed to do certain things. Mm-hmm. And us, I mean black folk. And that's still true today. I mean, there are so many things where we are not allowed to enjoy who we are. The long-standing piece, our hair.
Definitely.
If we don't have our hair trying to look like Miss Blondie, or just, lifeless and just stringy, then we don't think we have good hair. If we're not, I don't care what the complexion of a black person is, and because we span the entire spectrum of colors, from white to midnight black. But even those light, bright, and damn near whites use a lot of makeup. Mm. Because we feel we have to look like our oppressor to be beautiful. We have to look like our oppressor to be accepted. And I try to tell people all the time, it's in everything that we see, everything that we do, everything that we say, everything that we write. We are always having to please our oppressor. We feel that's the only way that we know that we've been accepted. And that's what it's used for, to keep us actually enslaved in our own thoughts. So, I find it interesting, especially when other writers are able to express themselves freely. Mm-hmm. And something you said, when they're able to write for enjoyment. If you're given a little square box and you're told this is how you do it, and only how you do it, then you can't enjoy it.
Nope.
But when you have the freedom to just flow with whatever, just happens to hit you, then you feel better about the product that you have created in the manner that you've gone there.
Especially if you can write it in the style you want to write it too.
Yeah,
also.
Exactly. So how long have you been writing?
I've been writing for probably over 10 years.
And where did you pick up the interest to write?
I don't know exactly when it was, but like I said, I just always read a lot, and I just, at one point, so I don't know what snapped. I just started keeping journals, and then I was like, I kind of like this writing thing, so I enrolled at UNO for English major, creative writing, and just took it from there.
So, what are some of the other pieces that you have written that you would like to tell our viewers about?
I've written about a lot.
What are some of the ones that, you know, that for whatever reason just shouts at you?
One I wrote maybe like a couple of weeks ago. It was about the state budget. So it started off just regular saying how they can't balance the budget, but then I got into analogy of comparing them to like a bunch of clowns in the car and saying how they headed to this cliff and they're trying to decide what's the best thing to do to stop the car from going over the cliff, and how they find out it got crazy, how if they hit enough people, it'll slow the car down. So the whole time, they're taking out all these people, and that's giving them more time to just kick the can down the road instead of do something about the actual problem, which is the cliff. And what made me think of that was just because they always talk about how we headed over the fiscal cliff, and every year it's like, oh, if we don't do this, we're going to have this fiscal cliff, and every year they come up with some way of trying to delay it instead of, a permanent fix. What that permanent fix could be, I don't know, and it doesn't seem like they really know either. It just seems like they just settle for temporary measures. And I just use that analogy, and the measures always hurt certain groups of people, so I use that analogy like, okay, they're in this car, they're hurting certain groups of people, and that's just giving them more and more time to stall instead of facing the big question.
Do you get a lot of feedback from your writing?
Not really. I always wonder, like, is it too thrown off to where people say, I'm not responding to this, or is it just they say, oh, I agree with this, but not really, not as much as I would like.
Yeah, I know. Writers always like to get feedback to their writing.
Positive or negative, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So, where are you looking down the road for this to take you?
Well, hopefully I would like to write a book like you and have a book published. Just hopefully it'll let me focus on something that I would like really want to write about on a sustained level, like to actually publish a whole book. So just helping me get my thoughts together, say, okay, what are you passionate enough about that would help you, that would sustain you through a whole book?
Do you feel a certain amount of freedom by publishing in 504, Think 504?
Oh, definitely, yeah. He gives me a lot of freedom because, like I said, some of the stuff can get really out there, but it's always, well, I think it's always intelligent. So that's why he said, okay, I'll roll with this. Like at one point, we were writing about the monuments, and he asked for an article about the monuments. I ended up submitting a short story about it was all made up about behind the scenes how Landry was using it for his own agenda and how Canizero was doing this and that, and I got some feedback on that. A lot of people found it funny, but it was a lot of truth in it too, so he gave me a lot of leeway. Every time I submit something, I always hold my breath like this is going to be the time when he's like, what is this?
I mean, I don't know exactly how many years Jeff has been at this, but he's been doing this a good while that I know of. And I've noticed the website has constantly improved. It's a major professional piece that he puts out there. He puts out a good piece of work. And I now understand some of that credit has to go to you.
Oh, thank you.
Because you have been writing for a good little while now. And from listening to you, it sounds as if he relies upon your craft, your ability, and your capabilities of putting things into words so people will relate to, will understand, and be informed about,
He's still Batman and I'm Robin, though.
Well, and I mean, that's a good thing because look how long Robin was able to stay Batman's sidekick. So he got a whole career being Robin. Yeah, I'm telling you. So, where are you looking down the road? What are the kind of things besides the book? Is there anything else that you're looking at?
Not at the moment. Things just come up, and who knows.
Yeah, yeah. Where are some in the future? Where can we expect you to be moving towards in your writing in Think 504? What are some of the things that will be up and coming?
Up and coming, like I said, it's always so random. It'll be, I read the newspaper, see what's going on, and say, hey, what am I motivated to respond to?
Mm-hmm.
And so to say, if I have a clear bunch of topics set out that I want to get to, then not really. It's just what moves me to write. Because I always feel you got to be, well, at least for me, I have to be motivated to write. Because if I try to force it, it's going to be terrible.
Motivation. Is it easy? Does it come easy, or do you have to work at getting to the motivation?
It comes easy. I mean, just if I actually, like he asked me to write, every other week. So throughout the week, I'll just be reading and just see, it's always something I'm interested in, but just picking out one thing that says, okay, this is what I actually want to sit down and write about.
Now, you had mentioned something about the legislators with this boondoggle of a budget that they have. From your experience, from your reading, do you have any solutions for them?
There's only two solutions. They either have to raise taxes or they have to cut the government. Because right now it just seems like the state has aspirations that it can't afford. It wants to be, the same state that's used to bringing in, like $28-25 billion when it just doesn't. Their aspirations, they don't have the budget for it. So,
do you have any idea what has caused the decrease in revenue?
There's a number of things. I think a lot of people say, well, I'm not 100% sure, that when they did away with the Stelly tax plan, I think that took away a lot of revenue, and I think they got a big bump in revenue after Katrina, and when the federal money ran out, they didn't, like I said, they didn't lower their aspirations. They still wanted to budget as if they had that same federal money, and they didn't. And so every year, we've been having bigger and bigger deficits because of that, whether it's been Jindal or Edwards.
Yeah. Have you done any work on the Entergy situation with this new power plant in New Orleans East?
No, I just heard about that earlier today.
Yeah. Well, actually, a lot of us are just hearing about it. It seems like Charles Rice has put a stop payment on a $20,000 check, I believe it was, to BOK. When I heard it, I was ready to get the guns out. I find it unfortunate that we have a man in Charles Rice's position who is in charge of a large corporation. $20,000
is not a lot to Energy.
Is a kick in the bucket. I mean, I'm sure they spend that as just throwaway money. And when I say throwaway money, I'm talking about recreational money, where you go to the park and you throw X amount of dollars away, or you go to the casino and you throw X amount of dollars away, recreational money. Well, I'm sure they spend far more than that in recreational money. But Charles Rice is a man who, before he got this job, tried to represent himself as being a advocate and a concerned person for the New Orleans community. And sometimes he liked to get people to think that he was concerned about the black community. But my problem with Entergy especially is this. They tax us to death with high rates, utility rates. They have people outside of New Orleans who buy stock in their corporation. And at the end of the year, they get paid a healthy dividend, which means the stock did well, which means they made money. They make money because they charge the rates that they charge us and anyone else who they're selling power to. But when it came to this power plant, I couldn't understand why no one raised the question. If you build this power plant and you're able to do what you claim you're going to do, that means your stockholders are going to make money. They're going to get paid dividends. So if they're going to get paid dividends, why shouldn't they carry the bulk and the weight of the investment for that particular power plant?
Who is carrying the bulk and the weight of it?
We are. We'll be paying for it all. They're talking about it's going to start out at like $5 or $6.
Oh, they're going to raise the electricity bill?
More in our electricity bills. Really? But when it comes time to share in the profits, we get absolutely none of that. They don't even reduce our burden for utilities for that month, that quarter, or that year.
One of the ironic things when I was researching the article about, Louisiana being rated last, one of the thing we were number one was electricity bills, which is ironic. And I put that in the article. I was like, tell that to somebody paying energy, but that was U.S. News' based on their facts. They said we have the lowest rate of, when it comes to electric bills, but they didn't provide any background data for that, so I didn't.
Yeah. Kenneth, we have a strange animal here that we call the telephone lines, and sometimes we'll get a call. So with someone out there, we must have struck a chord with somebody out there, because they're calling in, and I want to thank them, first of all, for watching our story, but most importantly, I want to thank them for participating. So caller, if you would turn the volume all the way down, talk to us directly in and through the telephone. What is your question or comment?
I just want to thank you guys. I think you guys are doing great service to the community today. This is Jeff.
Hey, how you doing?
All right, how's it going? Thoughtful, intelligent, and just want to thank both of you.
You're breaking up on us, Jeff.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Breaking up, Jeff.
We lost Jeff.
Give us a call back, Jeff.
Okay.
Maybe it's a bad connection. Yeah.
But if I was to write about the energy thing, one thing would be interesting is what was the impetus behind that? Like, it seemed at one point, it seemed like something real impersonal to do, or it seems like something real personal to do. Like, just to say, apparently they canceled the checks without telling them, so that seems like that's real impersonal. Or it seems like it's real personal, like he was so mad that he just canceled the checks.
Yeah.
Like, what was Charles Rice's relationship with WBOK? Like, did they talk about that at all? It's just strange. Because, at one point you would say, well, hey, they're not going to pay somebody to criticize them, but $20,000 is not a lot, and just up and cancel the check without telling them is kind of trifling.
It is. We have Jeff back with us.
Yeah.
All right, Jeff, can you hear us?
Can you hear me better now?
Yes, we can.
Pull his antenna up.
Go ahead.
Just wanted to thank both of you. WC, you're right, is a excellent writer, a great writer, the best writer I think 504 has. I just want to thank him publicly, and I want to keep. And I just want to also comment on.
Keep breaking up.
Breaking up again, Jeff. Is it our line?
That's it.
Is he gone?
He's still there.
Okay. Jeff, can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
Now we can, yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, I hear you guys perfectly well. I just think it's unconscionable what it's done.
He keep breaking up.
It sounds like every time you mention the city, you go out.
Phones must be tapped.
It's a conspiracy. Entergy stopping me from talking to you guys.
I think so.
I don't know what to say.
I think so. Well, that's the city line you're calling us on anyway.
Well, that explains it. I just think that Entergy has to be
Energy is not having that.
the local.
I mean, does Energy, they have that kind of power?
Well, listen. When they're not doing so when they stop payment on checks to radio stations. The station opening.
They must. They have some kind of control. Of course, they got all the one council person to vote for, so they got some kind of power over the city.
Only one council person opposed it?
Yeah, Guidry.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was unfortunate. Jeff, we appreciate you calling in. We're having the problem getting you in, though.
Okay, thanks again.
All right. Yeah, Guidry was the only council person that voted against it, which I felt bad because we have a new mayor coming in, and she voted for it. And what that made me feel like was business as usual was going to go on under her administration. When I thought I heard there were going to be a lot of changes made if she got in. And I was also disappointed in Jason Williams.
So you don't think they should build a power plant at all, or you don't think that the taxpayers should be the ones to
I believe if they want a power plant, then they should pay for it. They should not put that on the backs of us. I mean, they're in business to make money. And if that's the case, we should have a smaller portion of the burden for their business. Because if they're, and I know they're doing quite well from the business standpoint. If they're doing that well, they need to share some of that because, I mean, it's poor people like you and I who make them rich.
Pretty much. Paying those electric bills.
Now, I'm going to tell you something. This is my solution to the problem. Since they cut BOK's lifeline, one of them anyway, I think the people, if not all, especially the black community, excuse me, of New Orleans, should start a petition, get the necessary signatures on the petition to put a referendum on the ballot which would allow competing energy companies to do business in New Orleans.
Is that possible? Like, have they ever been?
Yes, it's possible. The only reason why they have an exclusive,
A monopoly?
a monopoly, is because city council voted it in. And if city council could create it, city council can undo it. If we were to have competing energy companies that come into New Orleans, do you realize the rates would go down for individuals?
Because of competition. But all the plants and everything, that's city property? That's not energy? Energy doesn't own any of that? Because it seemed like it would be, like, how would you get two companies to come in and...
It very easily. You know those utility poles out there? You know who owns those utility poles?
That should be city property, right?
That's city. The city owns them.
Who owns the plants, though, that shoots the power?
Well, we pay for the plants, but they own them.
Energy, right?
Yes.
So, yeah, that would be the big thing. Like, structurally, is it even possible? Since they not only have a monopoly contract-wise, they have a monopoly as far as available power plants in this.
Well, maybe I'm speaking too soon because I really haven't researched all of that. Those power plants, because I think Entergy picked up a lot of the power plants off of Nazi. I have to look into that. We have another caller. Caller, we appreciate you watching and participating. What is your question or comment?
Thank you so much, Mr. Johnson. You're doing a wonderful, wonderful job.
Thank you.
And what you just put on the table is what we need to work with. Would you do it, Mr. Johnson? You've done so much for us before. And would you do it? Would you get that Energy company away from New Orleans and Louisiana? Would you do that for us, please?
I'll do what I can, my brother. I appreciate it. Thank you.
And you've been so successful before. I know you can do it.
Thank you, my brother.
We know you can do it.
I'm gonna be calling upon you and others to assist me in it.
I'll be here.
Thank you. Appreciate you, my brother. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Bye.
Bye now. Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. That would cut down on some of the problems that as a ratepayer get some of that monkey off of my back. See what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Because the wealthy always live on the backs of the poor. And there are ways that we can deal with them to get them up off our backs. Now, I'm gonna tell you, Sewage and Water Board is making governmental utilities look bad. Same thing happened with NOPSI. But let me tell you something. That was done purposefully because the major businesses wanted to get in here, and the only way they could do it was the governmental plants had to be in such bad repair until we needed to bring somebody in to save them. And that's where big business come in. But let me tell you something. There is no reason at all why the water company, the electric company, the gas company should not be run by the governmental entity.
You don't think you just be trading one monopoly for another?
Wait a minute now. If properly managed and maintained, and when I say properly, that means we now are opening up our jobs to a majority of the people from the area. We have a built-in, on-the-job training program for people looking for jobs, and the cost of that, of the plant, would be spread over people that are using it. And when we find ourselves in a situation where we have to dig a little deeper, we dig it a little deeper. But when we find ourselves in a situation where things are going very well, then we back off of that charge that we have everyone participating in. I mean, it has worked too many times, too many places in the past.
So the plant now was part of the stipulation that they had to hire locals?
I don't think there's much stipulations in anything. They had a free reign. But we have the fastest hour in television, and my brother, I mean, it's been a treat having you here, Kenneth. I'll be inviting you back again.
All right, yeah, that was my
enjoy this. And I want to thank you because I do enjoy your articles. Jeff has made a wise decision in having you as one of his supporting writers, and that's great. And they're telling me that we're running out of time. We've run out of time. But thanks again. I'll be inviting you back, and we're going to have to get Jeff on here too, because I want a lot of things we can talk about as far as his blog is concerned, because I've got to admit, I mean, we haven't seen eye to eye on everything, but I have to admit and give him credit that he has really done a magnificent job in developing that blog. He's done a very
sure
good
he
job.
appreciates that.
Oh, yeah. So, remember, the book is available at the Community Book Center. It's also available at Wayne's World, and it's also at Education Delight. Remember, we're here to try to keep all of us informed as to what is going on. We want to thank you for being around. We want to thank you for hanging in there. We want to say, stay strong, black man, black woman. Stay involved, but most importantly, stay committed to blackness. Uhuru Sasa Ngawa.
Yeah, when you put it in perspective, the collective, monuments erected, continents affected, presidents elected, ancestors making moves with the music we've been blessed with. We use it to keep communities connected. Through harmonies, a harmony is collected. Reaping the fruits our foremothers invested. Lift every voice till freedom has manifested. Come on, yeah, lift every voice till freedom has manifested. Come on, listen, lift every voice till freedom has manifested. Come on, come on, come on, come on.
Sing a song,
Yeah, talk to
full of the faith that the dark past has taught us.
come on.
Sing a song, full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun
Facing the rising sun, come on.
of our new day begun.
It's a new day.
Let us march on
Yeah.
till victory is
Yeah,
won.
until victory is won, come
Till victory is
This is
won.
victory music. Come on, I hope you feel it.
Yeah, yeah.